Diary of a Man in Despair. Friedrich Reck. December 1938.
I rack my brains trying to discover the meaning of this persecution of the Jews which Goebbels has instigated. At a time when this regime still urgently needs peace, surely this must call forth the deadly enmity of the whole world and make war inevitable. I cannot find the motivation, not even when I try to imagine myself a Nazi, and follow what I would imagine would be his train of thought. I know that dictators must stage a new fireworks show every 5 months in order to hold the allegiance of the canaille. This is what drove Napoleon III from Sevastopol to the Chinese expedition, to Magenta, Solferino, Mexico, and finally, Sedan. All this is incontrovertible, and might well explain the events of November 9, if it were not for the fact that Hitler is also thereby bringing war down on himself, a war which he must certainly avoid if he is not to dig his own grave. I discussed this with L., hard-working official at the Foreign Ministry, who simply laughed at me and my complicated analyses. His explanation of everything was Hitler's sudden fits of rage. Now playing Artaxerxes, Hitler at once begins to roar when he does not immediately get his way, throws himself to the floor, and bites the carpet. This is the reason, then, if L. is right, for all this misery and this immeasurable shame. But I wish to cite 2 cases, which took place before my eyes, so to speak. The first concerns a niece of Sinenthal, the actor, who was driven from one refuge to the next, until finally, deathly tired, and beyond wanting to live any more, she simply walked up into the mountains on one of the first freezing nights of this autumn. After days of searching, we finally found her. She was dead. The second story is even more shattering. I will not name its unfortunate subject for reasons that are highly personal. It was told me by the widow of our immortal Leo von Zumbusch. Aged Fräulein X lived in great seclusion in her 2-room apartment on Munich's Maximilianstrasse. A well-known actor who had managed to win great popularity with the Nazis decided that he wanted these 2 rooms. He found it unheard of for an old Jewish woman to be inhabiting them and denounced the old lady to get the apartment. This is tantamount to deportation to a concentration camp and slow death by starvation in these glorious times. Old Fräulein X knew this very well, and felt herself to be too old and too weak for this bitter path. She turned with an urgent plea for a quick-acting poison to the mother of one of her pupils. The friend was a woman of character and determination. First, she offered every conceivable aid and protection to the old, weary lady. When this did not work, she had the courage to go to a Munich pharmacologist, a colleague of her husband's, to ask for the poison. This gentleman, who to make matters worse was himself a follower of Hitler, was furious at the very idea, and at first refused. Then, however, as the utter hopelessness of the case was driven home to him, he overcame his sense of outrage sufficiently to slip a mixture of curare and potassium cyanide into her hand. The lady returned to Fräulein X, really already a dying woman, with the poison. And now it turned out that with her tearful thanks for the poison, Fräulein X had still one more request: would the friend sing Brahms' Ernst Gesang before they parted? The friend, who is a singer, complied. She left, and today at lunch we got word that old Fräulein X had been found dead in her apartment. The man who had denounced her, the actor P., had grown impatient and was at her door at the time. These were things I witnessed, so to speak. I give the names of the denouncers in neither case. In the Sinenthal case, the individual is a 79-year-old one-time dancer, a Hitlerite now living in Vienna, an old slattern who soon, on her deathbed, will see before her the seat of judgment. And the other one? I have now lived more than 50 years, have been forced to descend into certain dark places, and I have emerged with one piece of wisdom: no harm that I have ever done has not caused me pain later on, if it took decades. One way or another, sooner or later, often when it is almost forgotten, I wonder, is there now and then in the cocktails which her P. enjoys in his apartment acquired in this way the taste of a mixture of curare and potassium cyanide, and through the march music resounding out of his radio, does he not perhaps, at times, hear something like the Ernst Gesang?